Back in August 2019, one single piece of legislation completely reshaped the map and the constitutional identity of a region that had a unique status in India for over 70 years. We're of course talking about the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act. And look, this wasn't just some minor legal tweak, it was a fundamental redrawing of geography, governance, and identity. So let's dive in and break down exactly how this monumental shift happened.
All right, let's kick things off by looking at the monumental constitutional change that's really at the heart of this entire act. Okay, so what's the big picture here? It's pretty stark when you lay it out like this. Before the act, you had the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which had a special status unlike any other state in the country. And after, that one state is gone, replaced by two distinct union territories, bringing the entire region under the direct administration of the central government.
So why was this such a massive deal? Well, to get that, you got to go back in time of it. It all started with the accession to India in 1947. Then came Article 370 in 1949, and later Article 35A in 1954. For decades, these two articles were the very foundation of Jammu and Kashmir's special place in the Indian Constitution.
But what exactly was Article 370? Well, it was officially called a temporary provision in the Constitution, and it gave Jammu and Kashmir a whole lot of autonomy. We're talking about the power to have its own constitution, its own flag, and its own set of laws on many matters. This is that special status you always hear about.
Okay, so how did this all happen?
I mean, dismantling a 70-year-old constitutional framework. You'd think that would take ages, right? Well, not this time. The process was astonishingly fast, a true legislative sprint.
And this timeline really shows you just how fast it all moved. The bill was introduced and passed in the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, on August 5th, the very same day. It flew through the Lok Sabha, the lower house, the very next day. By August 9th, it had the president's signature, and just a couple of months later, on October 31st, it was officially law.
And, the numbers here really speak for themselves. In the Rajya Sabha, it passed 125 to 61. And in the Lok Sabha, the majority was even more decisive, 370 votes in favor, with only 70 against. It's clear there was significant political backing behind this move.
All right, we've seen how it passed, but what's actually in the act? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and dissect this blueprint for change that completely restructured the former state.
The absolute heart of this act was the split, or bifurcation. The single state of Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized into two new, completely separate union territories.
But here's the twist. These two new UTs weren't set up the same way. Not at all. On one side, you have the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, designed with its own legislature, kind of like the model used in Puducherry. And on the other, you have the Union Territory of Ladakh, which doesn't have a legislative assembly and is administered directly from the center, a lot like Chandigarh.
Another huge change hit the new J&K UT's legislature. The old state had what's called a bicameral system. That just means it had two houses. This new act, specifically under Section 57, completely abolished the upper house, the Legislative Council. This left it with a unicameral system, meaning just one house, the Legislative Assembly.
So let's break down what this new assembly looks like. The total strength is set at 114 seats. But hold on, 24 of those seats are technically reserved for the territory of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, so they're going to remain vacant. That leaves 90 seats that are actually up for grabs in an election.
And it wasn't just the number of seats that changed. The day-to-day operations got a major overhaul to bring them in line with the rest of the country. The term length for members was cut from 6 years down to 5. The size of the cabinet, or council of ministers, was capped at 10% of the assembly's total strength. Plus, there's a new provision that allows the lieutenant governor to nominate 2 women if he feels their representation isn't adequate.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question. If Article 370 is out of the picture, what's in? What part of the Constitution now runs the show for the J&K Union Territory?
And the answer is Article 239A. This is the part of the Constitution that lays out the rules for union territories that have their own legislature. Remember how we mentioned the Puducherry model earlier? Well, Article 239A is the constitutional engine that makes it run.
So we've talked about the high-level political structure. But what did this all mean on the ground? For everyday life, for laws and governance? This is where we get into the new administrative reality, and the impact was huge.
The scale of this legal change is, well, it's massive. Think about it. The state had its very own criminal code, the Ranbir Penal Code. It had its own Right to Information Act. Gone. All of them.
In total, a staggering 153 state-specific laws were just repealed.
And of course, you can't have a legal vacuum, so in their place, a whole bunch of central laws were rolled out across the new Union territories. The Indian Penal Code, or IPC, now applies, as does the Central RTI Act. All told, 106 central laws now became the law of the land, completely standardizing the legal system with the rest of India.
Now, this table, this right here, probably shows the impact on people's lives more than anything else. Before, there was a form of dual citizenship. Now, it's single Indian citizenship for everyone. The separate state constitution is gone, replaced entirely by the Constitution of India. And property rights, which were once heavily restricted, are now open to all Indian citizens.
You know, it's not just the big legal stuff. Even something as fundamental as the official languages got a shakeup. For years, Urdu was the sole official language. The new act established 5: Kashmiri, Dogri, Urdu, Hindi, and English, a move meant to reflect the region's linguistic diversity.
With all this change, you might be wondering what happened to the courts. Well, the key word here is continuity. Section 75 of the Act makes it crystal clear. The existing High Court of Jammu and Kashmir will continue to be the common High Court for both the UT of Jammu and Kashmir and the UT of Ladakh.
Okay, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. Why does this single act matter so much? What's its enduring significance? It's really about the complete redefinition of an entire region's constitutional relationship with the rest of India. When you boil it all down, the transformation was threefold. You had a geographic shift from one state into 2 union territories. You had a constitutional shift from a special autonomous status to full integration. And you had a legal shift, bringing everything under the single unified Constitution of India.
And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? This Reorganization Act wasn't an endpoint. It was a starting line for a brand new chapter. The real story is still being written, and the ultimate question remains: how will this profound transformation shape the political, economic, and social future for the people of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh for generations to come?